Okay, call the regular meeting of City of Selma Planning Commission to order, June 24th, 2024 at 6:05 PM. Let's do the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Commissioner Corey,
Here.
Commissioner Franco,
Here.
Commissioner Juarez,
Here.
Commissioner Sandu,
Here.
Chair Salas.
Here.
For the record, Vice Chair Singh is absent today and Commissioner Garcia has not arrived yet.
Okay. Potential conflicts of interest. Any commissioner who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Does anyone have a conflict of interest? No conflict of interest. Oral communication. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission regarding any item over which the commission has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the chairperson for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. The oral communication, does anyone want to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda?
There's no callers.
No callers, okay. We're going to do the development presentation first.
I would recommend we conduct our public hearing and then actually do the development presentation last. So consent calendar, public hearings, and then special presentations.
All right, we do have a development presentation that we will do after regular business. First item on the agenda is the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted in one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any commission member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The commission can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Item 1 on the consent calendar is consideration and necessary action on the minutes of the April 22nd, 2024 meeting. Item 2 is consideration and necessary action on the minutes of the April 29th, 2024 meeting. Is there any discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve items 1 and 2.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Commissioner Franco,
Yes.
Commissioner Corey,
Yes.
Commissioner Juarez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandu,
Yes.
Chair Salas,
Yes.
motion approved.
The next item is public hearing. It's a conditional use permit extension. Conditional use permit 2020-0012. The applicant is requesting an additional 1-year extension. So you want to do the staff report, Kamara?
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Kamar Beawoki, city planner for the city of Selma. While we're pulling this up, I did want to point something out on your guys' staff report. In the, I believe it's the settings or summary at the very beginning, there is something that says a date that should be changed. It says after the COVID extensions, the original expiration date was extended to June 24th, 2023. That date should actually be July 27th, 2024. And I'll expand more on that in this presentation. Once again, my name is Kamara, city planner for the city of Selma, and today, item 3 is the extension of a previously approved CUP to allow a type 21 APC license to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits, and to construct a commercial retail and gas station mini mart. Okay, so now this CUP was initially approved back in July 27, 2022, per the city's municipal code. Per the city's municipal code, CUPs expire 1 year following their approval unless progression has been made to develop the project, such as a building permit or a grading permit. And you can see here on this table, kind of the timeline of how that project took place. The first expiration date was July 27, 2021. Now, through a series of extensions and efforts to offer relief to the economic hardships that were produced by COVID-19, CUP 2020-0012, the original expiration date was extended to July 27th, 2024. And that happened through the resolutions that were attached to the staff report, November 16th, 2020, was a 1-year extension that approved any discretionary or site plan review permits by the city council. That is the first column that you see there. And then a 3-year extension was approved on March 21st, 2022. That was for all planning entitlements between 2019 and 2021. Between those two extensions, this pushed out the new expiration date to July 27th, 2024. That is why we are here today. If this extension is approved, the new expiration date will be July 27th, 2025. Next slide, please. Okay, a little bit of background. A CUP was applied for the applicant due to the regional commercial requirements. Their property is zone CR, community or regional commercial. Per our ordinance, a conditional use permit is required for auto service stations and the establishments of alcohol beverage sales. In that original approval, there were 2 phases to the CUP or to the proposed project. First phase was, well, they offered a 7,800 square foot commercial building that would have 2 tenants, 4,800 square foot gas station and mini mart with 6 pumps, and a 3,000 square foot fast food restaurant with a drive-through. The second phase would have a 3,500 square foot single story commercial retail building. And then per the approved site plan, there would be 54 parking spaces that would be required. And that project was approved with the NOE, a notice of exemption, and that was prepared by using the Class 32 infill development exemption. Next slide, please. As you can see here, this is the location of the site in yellow, bordering or highlighting the parcel boundaries just north of East Mountain View Avenue. Next slide. Here is the originally approved site plan that was approved back in 2020. Next slide, please. Now for this extension, because today we are talking about the extension, we are using the Class 32 infill development exemption that was previously used. And on top of that, we are using 15301 exemption. And this exemption as this extension will not significantly alter any previously approved facilities, nor will it include any expansions. That's why we use that 15301. Next slide, please. So to further reiterate, this item before you is only a time extension for 2022-0012. We have talked to the applicant about the process and what would entail if they did decide to alter their project. Any significant deviations to the original approved site plan over 10% would require an amended CUP submittal. This would open the project up back to the public eye and give it back to the internal agencies, or give it back to the city so we can reroute it to internal and external agencies. And this could include or update conditions of approvals, mitigations, things of that nature. Once again, staff is recommending Planning Commission to approve the 1-year extension of CUP 2020-0012 as presented, establishing a new expiration date to July 27th, 2025, and a notice of exemption in compliance with CEQA. You're open for questions.
Has there been any progress since the first two extensions, like during 23, 24 for the site, or the permits, the plans, any work have been completed?
Physical work as in construction, no. There has been multiple conversations with the applicant. I think he will probably expand a little bit more when he begins to talk about the project, but nothing tangible has been established.
Any permits submitted?
There was a building permit submitted, and I believe it did get processed and reviewed, but after that, there was nothing else that took place.
Are there any limits at a certain point where we can no longer extend the CUP? Like how many extensions are okay with the city? And then at a certain point, do we have to say we can no longer extend it unless work has been done?
I do not know exactly the amount of extensions. I know every time they do request an extension, we will have to take it back to planning commission.
And to add to that, I don't believe the ordinance speaks to a limit on the amount of extensions. It gives standards and findings for which the commission needs to make to grant an extension. So it's firmly within the discretion of the planning commission to determine whether an extension is appropriate, however many times it deems it's appropriate.
Thank you.
Of course.
This is a public hearing. During the public hearing, I will first ask for staff's comments and reports on the item being discussed. After staff's presentation, I will then open the hearing to public testimony. I will then close the public hearing, at which time no member of the public shall address the commission unless specifically asked by a member of the commission through the chair. The planning commission will then discuss the matter amongst themselves and take action on the item being considered. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing to any public testimony for or against the matter.
No one in the
No
line.
one's online. Okay, we will close the public hearing and bring the matter back to the commission. Does anyone have any other questions or discussion?
All right. You know, I understand, we all want to see development, but, I think if it's been granted and there is some future plan for some works, by not granting it, all we're doing is taking it all the way back to step one, correct? And starting the whole process over again.
That would be correct. If the extension isn't granted and no work begins by the time it expires, it would expire and they would need to begin the process all over. Conditions of approval, standards of review, all of those items will have changed if they're required to resubmit. If the applicants were to submit an amendment, they would be subject to the new provisions anyway. So really the issue is as far as this extension goes, is really keeping the opportunity alive. Similar, I believe, the commission's familiar with the Crestwood project, that they had a project that was different and they just wanted to extend it. And then they stated they were coming in for an amendment. So if that's the case here, it would still come back to the commission and be subject to our current standards as well.
I think that we have a history of granting some of these extensions just because of COVID, just
Right.
kind of threw a wrench into everything for everyone. So I don't see any problem myself.
All right.
Anyone?
Make a motion to grant the extension for the CUP 2020-0012.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Commissioner Corey,
Yes.
Commissioner Juarez,
Yes.
Commissioner Franco, Commissioner Sandu,
Yes.
Chair Salas,
Yes.
motion approved.
Okay.
Hopefully by next year, we'll have some progress.
You're welcome.
welcome.
Thank you for coming. Okay, that's all the items on the agenda. So now we will go to the quarterly development presentation by Assist Deputy City Manager Key.
Great. So, as, the chair stated, this is your quarterly development, project update. We typically do this at city council, and then we're gonna bring it to planning commission so that everybody's in the loop, with what we have going on. You guys get a slightly updated version than the version that was presented to city council. I think we presented it in April to city council. I think it was a late April meeting. So there's been some, movement on a couple projects and some new information on a couple projects. So I'll try and keep it as concise as I can. Obviously, questions are welcome. Next slide, please. New projects we have. Next slide. So this is a project we received. It's the Whitson Mixed Use Project located on the corner of Thompson and Whitson, where they would propose abandonment of Stillman Street, just north of the auto repair, over in that area to create a larger site for development, and it would consist of retail, commercial, as well as I think it's about 64 apartments. So it'd be what we term as a horizontal mixed-use project where you have both residential and commercial located on the same site. The city staff looked to pursue a grant to help with some of the offsite infrastructure through Fresno COG for this project, and our application was declined. But this project would include, amongst other things, a gas station mini mart on the corner that would replace that auto repair on the corner. We feel that this is a great example of infill mixed use that you provide, varying uses that necessitate maybe more people walking to uses on the same site, or providing people in the middle of town closer to commercial so that they can walk rather than drive. So we actually, this project checks a lot of boxes in the planning world in terms of reducing vehicle miles traveled, reducing greenhouse gases, while providing infill sites, so we don't have vacant property in the middle of town. That project, I'm sorry, if you go back, that project was submitted for site plan review. And we issued a final decision letter to the applicant. So we're just awaiting building and grading permit construction documents for that project.
Well, do you know what kind of retail they're going to be?
It could be varying. They just had retail, commercial. It would be whatever's allowed in the C2 zone, which is a variety. They didn't have any specific tenants proposed. They just had it as retail, commercial.
Do you know what section the apartments are going to be at?
Section or what?
Or whereabouts on the property?
They'd be on the West Front Street side. So if you look at the site plan up in the northern part of it, that's where they show the proposed apartments along with associated covered parking over there, like the northern half of the property. Next slide, please. This is a preliminary development review application at the north east corner of Dinuba and McCall for a gas station and quick service restaurant. Staff received a preliminary application and issued a final action letter to that preliminary review that outlined the type of information that needed to be provided for the gas station, which would be similar to the item you guys heard tonight, which would be a CUP application for that gas station before it could be approved. Similar, I believe the drive-through also requires a gas station or a CUP as well. So that information was provided to the applicant, as well as maybe some landscaping requirements because it is within the McCall specific plan. as well as coordination with some of the other projects we have going on in that area, such as the Dinuba-McCall traffic signal. So we provided them with all that information so they could revise their site plan accordingly and prepare the needed documentation to process a conditional use permit for the site. Questions? I believe this property has been annexed to the city already, so no annexation is required. Unlike the northwest corner where you'll see other projects in this area as well. Next slide, please. So right across the street, as I just stated, you have track 6464, which is a small lot duplex type of subdivision proposed on the northwest corner of Dinuba and McCall. This project went through a similar preliminary development review application process, and we issued a final action letter. They have submitted, or we're awaiting submittal of that application. Awaiting submittal of that application. I apologize. However, we have had discussions with them along the lines of where their right-of-way needs to be, landscaping requirements in the McCall specific plan, their technical studies, what needs to be included with those, as well as timing of sewer in that area. Because as you're aware, the Dinuba sewer line still needs to be extended to that intersection as well. So this property is part of a larger annexation proposal. You have this property, the property directly to the west that is also vacant that needs to be annexed. But there are multiple properties with this applicant that include a larger annexation area that would take in all the corners of the Dinuba-McCall intersection.
Applicant.
The Ted Alpers, I believe, is the application for applicant for this one. He's working with Ken Bang with Vice Engineering for this project. And part of this is, you know, singular duplex, but part of it is also a gated component. So it's like a first phase ungated, second phase gated for the project.
So the duplexes are going to be rented or sold?
I think the northern half would be sold and the southern half would be rented because it would all be a part of a gated community. Next slide, please. This project is the second in Front Street mixed use project. I think most people refer to it as an old trophy shop. The proposal is for a coffee bar on the corner with real estate, office, as well as apartments on the second story. So it's a vertical mixed use project in this sense. The applicant submitted a site plan review application and we issued a final decision letter for this project. So we're just awaiting clarification of some of the development requirements in the building permit and if there are any grading permits required, because there will be offsite improvements. They are proposing outdoor seating on that corner. So there would be some coordination with staff with the use of sidewalk in collaboration with our updated zoning code. But we also have a grant application for that Second Street entry, the Cal Green grant that the city received $3 million for, that we're trying to coordinate some of the improvements up and down there and trying to fit this project into kind of the thematic outcome that we're looking to obtain with that grant project.
So is this a different, because somebody was building apartments up there already. What happened to that?
I'm sorry?
Someone was already building apartments on the second floor.
I
What
don't,
happened?
I don't know if they had a permit to do so. So,
Now they're just,
yeah, so
okay.
we actually, the proper channels were followed. Part of the issue is the discussion of whether or not an elevator is required on the second story or not, considering the type of use in that building. So depending on the type of building, we did ask them to work with their architect to clarify the elevator requirements, because obviously that changes, I think, the whole outcome of the project if they're required to do an elevator. So we've asked for that documentation. We're still, like I said, awaiting the building permit for that. Slide, please. So this is another project over off of Dinuba. This is directly behind the gas station property to the east and directly abuts the existing subdivision to the east and north of the mobile home park. This is a combination of a 41 lot single-family subdivision, and a apartment complex of, I think it's 70+ units. 72. To be built on different portions. So the apartments would be on the southern half on the corner of Duke and Dinuba, and the subdivision would just be further north on Duke. Questions?
Further south was where the mini storage was gonna be? Remember, there was supposed to be a mini storage directly across the street from the mobile home park. Did
Yeah,
that-
I think the gas station lot is only taking up a portion of the V5 mini storage. So it's not, the gas station is taking up the whole lot, I don't believe.
So they're not gonna do the mini storage then?
I don't believe it's been ruled out. I just don't think that they're taking up the whole site with the mini storage.
Sorry, can you clarify again the mixed use, the multifamily and the single family, where they'll be on that lot?
I like just talking. The multifamily would be on the northwest corner
Okay,
of Duke and Dinuba, with the single family further north.
okay, awesome, thank you.
Uh-huh. And part of that is you don't want the multifamily further back, creating more traffic trips to the
Right.
neighborhood, right?
Right, that's why I was asking. I was
Oh,
like, I
no,
sure
no.
hope it's this way, because that
No.
makes more sense.
Yeah,
you
good
know?
planning practice is to have higher traffic generating uses on the corner. That's why you see gas stations on the corner. You don't see them further in, right? You don't
Right,
see them middle of the block.
Right.
You see them on the corner. So similar with apartments. Next slide, please. So these are the more current projects that we have that have already been approved, or that, have been around the city for some time. Next slide, please. So Amberwood, that's the one that we hear the most about. We actually had a meeting this afternoon with SKF on processing improvement plans, which have been received by staff. So we're in the process of providing our first set of review comments to the improvement plans and final map for the 297 lot subdivision, outlined in red and provided up there. So you can see we've sort of moved one step. The annexation was completed and we had been awaiting the improvement plans, I think, for 2 years or so. Obviously, the issuance of a notice to proceed on the Amberwood sewer trunk line project, I think, had something to do with the timing and submittal of those plans. But we are progressing with that, so that's great news for everybody.
at the corner of Floral and Dockery.
Correct. Running this project?
What's the timeline you think?
I mean, we got first review done in about 15 days of the improvement plans. What we're looking to do is on the second review and incorporate, I think, some of the other agencies like Cal Water and SKF. So what we're hoping is the improvement plans could be done anywhere, once they get revisions back, or once they start making revisions, we probably anticipate them taking 30 days probably to make said revisions. But if our turnaround times stay within the 2-week, 3-week range, my hope is to have the final map ready to go to city council in the next 3 months. We are also amenable, which we've told them, to issuing at-risk grading. So if they wanted to start moving dirt out there, making site improvements to just shorten their timeline for land development and overall construction, we would be amenable to that, but they just need to understand that it's at risk, and if something changes on their plans, it's at their cost.
Do we know when they're gonna bring it before council to approve the sewer development there?
Sewer's been approved.
I mean, it's been approved, but when are they gonna start it? Do they have to put it out to bid like?
We
they
already
did-
put it out to bid. It's already under construction. Notice to proceed to
No.
contractors has already been
Not
issued.
Amberwood, Dinuba.
Oh, we don't even have funding for Dinuba. We have a line of credit with the creditors.
Mhm.
However, we haven't put any identification into a timeline of doing that. We're working on one project at a time and trying to finish one project at a time right now. You say no?
We want it all at the
We
same.
wanna see the
we
other
wanna
side.
See Dinuba.
No, I
Yeah.
know, and we've started some of the work. I think some of the money that has been allocated for like sewer crossing underneath Golden State at the railroad. We do have funding for that, so we are starting components of it, larger components for the Dinuba sewer line. The plans, I think, are nearing approval, but once the plans are approved, a timeline will be established for when financing and then overall construction would be completed for that. But in terms of hierarchy, I think that is the second highest priority project we have.
We all want to see those areas get cleaned up over there.
Understand? Any other questions regarding this project? Selma Grove, the annexation was approved. It is still pending, conditions of approval to be completed by the applicant. In terms of, finalizing legal descriptions, paying any outstanding fees to the State Board of Equalization. But at that point, we would just be awaiting, construction documents for building permits once it's been annexed. Doesn't mean we couldn't process them now. It just means we couldn't approve them. My understanding is this applicant still would like to negotiate a development agreement as well with the city for various components of it, various components of the project. So, until we receive a proposal or talking points, as far as we know, completion of the annexation, we would just be awaiting, construction documents for this project.
That is still all commercial, right?
Right. This is one of the projects that I think we could point to with regard to being a regional commercial project as envisioned in the general plan. This project has been in process for years, but it does not have any residential component to this project. It is strictly regional commercial. Next slide, please. The Raven Track subdivision, I think this is one of the projects along Dinuba that people want to see done. In discussions with the applicant, they've actually had to split this project into two maps instead of a singular map. In the northeast corner of the project is a historical discharge area for Consolidation Irrigation District that they were not able to negotiate transfer of land and the historic rights to another site. So what they're doing you look at the site plan, the phase 3 component of that map, phase 2 and phase 3 are now their own map, and it is being revised to accommodate the historic drainage area in the northeast corner of that property. So you'll see they have a basin up in the corner, but it's a considerably larger area. And then if you know how to use Google Earth, I think that if you flip back a couple of years, there is an aerial photo that shows that whole northeast corner of the property underwater. And so that's where they discharge from the canal, and they've had historical rights to do so. And so as part of their project, because they couldn't find similar land to give to CID, they're just redesigning their project. So we're working on the western phase 1 component of the project, which is about 100 and lots. Yeah, somewhere around there. The applicant is revising their environmental studies and preparing their CEQA document for that singular map. Any questions? Okay, next slide, please. Casitas development, we actually had a discussion about this project today. We're working to release a notice of preparation for the CEQA document for this project in the next week. For the 30-day comment period, where we would have a scoping meeting to identify any other issues to be studied as part of the CEQA document for this project. So this is a mixed-use project, 600 units of multifamily, some of which are age restricted, some of which are income restricted. And then the other half, the other 300 units would be market rate. So it is a combination of not only mixed use types of housing, but mixed use in terms of housing near commercial development as well.
Age restriction like senior housing?
Yes. As part of this project, they are also including a 2+ acre park in the middle, as well as 2 north-south roadways to get traffic from Floral Avenue to Stillman to try and relieve some of the traffic issues at Highland and Floral, right? So this project that we feel is a project that checks a lot of boxes for us for housing element, for reducing some of the traffic impacts in that portion of the city. Yeah. Any questions? Slide, please. Highland Park development is located just on the northwest corner of Nebraska and Highland, directly across from the J. Singh apartment project on the other side of Highland, just south of the Sikh temple. This is a 444 unit multifamily project, along with about 5 acres of commercial in that area. We're working with the applicant now to complete their technical studies in order to prepare their CEQA document for this project. They have some logistical issues to resolve, getting sewer to the site. They're going to be working with Caltrans for access off of Highway 43, extending water to the site. I think just comes north from the Sikh temple. So I'm sorry. Emergency access. They only have a singular access point off of Highland, so having a secondary EV access is just a design issue that they're still working through. This area is a rezone general plan amendment type of project, but this area was proposed to have an open space park as part of their project to try and accommodate some of the open space needs. They've incorporated significantly more open space into their project for their residents, right? So you see like a huge green space on the site plan. We try to maximize the size of the site plan, so it's actually turned sideways. North is this way on the site plan in the presentation. So you can see the green space kind of in the middle that they spread throughout the site to try and make up for the open space, public space that they would have lost.
Is that city already?
Yes, it's already in the city limits. Questions? Next slide, please. The Joseon development, this is another mostly commercial, but some residential components of this project, horizontal mixed use on the southwest corner of Nebraska and Highland. This project is somewhat stagnated in their process. They had a lot of revisions to make as part of their initial planning application in terms of design and access limitations off of State Route 43. They are in discussions with Caltrans about trying to negotiate more driveway access. We have our own provisions for spacing of driveways along arterial roadways and highways such as Highway 43. So there are some limitations in terms of us wanting a shared access. As you can see, there's a center drive to a traffic circle in the project, which is more of what we would prefer rather than sporadic driveways that may slow down traffic patterns on southbound 43. So this project consists of multiple, quick service restaurants, gas station, a regional commercial component right along Highway 43. So we've checked in with the applicant team to try and get them what they need to resubmit to us so we can get that project rolling again. Questions? Slide, please. J. Singh Apartments, this is the 144 unit apartment complex with future commercial, which was approved by the city council June 3rd. May 20th, man. Feels like just yesterday. May 20th. So we're working with the applicant to get construction documents for this project reviewed and approved. I believe they've submitted their first round of review and we're just awaiting second submittal. They are in communication with the school district with regard to the 0.95 acre piece that we discussed them transferring to the school district. The school district seems receptive to that idea. So that's good news to hear. But the update for planning commission is that project was approved by city council. Slide, please.
Sorry, how many units was that?
144.
McCall Apartments. This is at Nelson and McCall southeast corner. This is a 40 unit. This project was approved through site plan review. We're still awaiting, I think the building permit actually expired for this project. So we're just awaiting resubmittal for that project. Slide, please. Casa de Villa Apartments. This project was also approved at the same May 20th meeting. Have not, we're same boat. We're just waiting construction documents to be submitted by the applicant. The city has talked to PG&E about the Rule 20 undergrounding of overhead utilities in that area. And we're trying to figure out if our timelines to have that money used to do the undergrounding would conflict with the developer's timeframe. Or if we can work out a situation where we come behind him if he gets out ahead of us and underground the overhead utilities. So we're still trying to work that out. Slide, please. Thompson Estates. This project is located just north of the 10-acre proposed Thompson Park at Saginaw and Thompson. This project is it's actually, I think, a 3-phase subdivision. Now, this is an old map. We need to update that they added another in that portion that says remainder 358,000 square feet. They actually added another segment of, or another section of this single family subdivision. So they have a couple of items that they need to address as part of their application. One being annexation of all the property owners to the north and making sure everybody's on board with that, because they may not control their own annexation as a result if there's more than 12 registered voters. So they're working through that issue as well as just general design issues with their subdivision. And that's I think it's a 200+ lot subdivision in that area adjacent to Thompson Park, which is also in the construction document phase with city staff and our chosen consultant RRM design. Next slide, please. Rose Avenue tract was also approved at the May 20th city council meeting. I've been told by the applicant that we would expect improvement plans for this project in the next 4 to 5 weeks. Very cool. We have received interest, from property owners. I think they were at the planning commission meeting with regard to sharing facilities. There's also been interest, I think, to the south as well with regard to some properties in the area. Availability of sewer, what it'll cost to connect, things like that. Next slide, please. JNC Trucking. We're just working through some of the grading issues on that site. If you're familiar with that area of town, that project's down in a hole. So the site plan and review was approved for that project, and subsequent indemnification and some other agreements needed to be signed because they are below the floodplain in that area. And so we've just worked with them to get their grading permit approved in accordance with the conditions issued as part of the site plan review. And they've actually cleaned up the site somewhat out in that area, but they still have some work to do to complete their conditions with regard to the site plan review. Slide, please.
What street was that on?
Nebraska. Nebraska, right? Nebraska east of Dockery.
Mm.
Bubble wash renovation. I believe this building permit has been submitted. It just has not been issued. So we've been working with the bubble wash folks to expand their convenience store to add, a few more refrigerators to increase their sales out at that area. So building permit has been in. I think that there's been some discrepancies on their field survey for their project where they show some improvements actually out in the right of way that they've had to remove. So I believe they're also doing signage as well for the fuel island, that they're going to be updating the signage around the fuel island as well. So it'll be a nice project when it's done, kind of cleaning up and modernizing an existing project in town. What's it called now? Oh, it's the Chevron Extra Mile. Yeah. Yeah.
I just call it the Chevron car wash.
Okay. Next slide, please. Outsource industrial. This project, I think, came to us as kind of a code enforcement issue more than anything. Outsource provides services to PG&E. They service a lot of their utility poles and provide 24-hour service to PG&E. So there was an interest to keep the project moving. So there was a delayed, a deferred enforcement agreement on code enforcement that was approved by City Council. We've worked with them. I think the building is actually up out there and they've started cleaning up the site and relocating and paving and putting down proper road base and storage facilities and connecting the sewer instead of having above ground septic tanks and some other things like that in the industrial park. So our goal is to gain compliance. We're gaining compliance slowly but surely out there. So that's an encouraging sign out in the industrial park. Next slide, please. FCRTA maintenance facility. We actually received an addendum to their plans today with regard to some just site design layouts, that nothing major. But that project is progressing out in that area. It's just under construction and we're watching it be constructed. So slide, please. Starbucks drive-through and walk-up. We've gone through the site plan review. The building and grading permits have been submitted. There's been significant comments on various submittals for this project due to various redesign of the site. It is a very small site, and so with existing construction going on directly west, with the Chevron, that's the other Chevron, extra mile in town, that they need to show kind of existing conditions to make sure everything matches up, right? And so some of the coordination of plans have been overlapping. There's been discrepancies on the plans that we've been trying to work with them to understand that it needs to be shown cohesively through all their plan set, pages and sheets. So it's progressing. I think we had some comments. I think we were down to about a page and a half of comments today. So we got those turned around, I think, in 2 days for them. So our hope is that they're relatively minor in nature, but they should be able to turn it around here pretty quick, and we could walk to Starbucks from City Hall here in the next 4 to 6 months. Any questions? Slide, please. Grass storage facility that's going on just north of Pioneer Village. I think if you drive out there, you see a huge metal building out there. So they're progressing with their construction. And that's the update. They are progressing. We get a lot of questions about it, people wondering what it is. So we have to explain what an outdoor modular storage showroom is to them. And that's always fun. But it'll be a great project when it's completed. Nice new facility out there and visible from the highway. So that's a good thing. Next slide, please. Crestwood Wellness Facility. As everybody's aware, this is a tenant improvement project. We sent out plan check comments. I think they were the second plan check comments, May 30th to them, May 13th. And so we're just awaiting a third revision on these, and we anticipate that they may get issued on the next submittal. They're pretty close. So other than that, that's the update for that project. Next slide, please. Macho Tires, this is another one that discrepancy on plans and design have led to some delays with regard to grades on site. How are utilities getting to the site and to the building without conflicting with other aspects of the project, right? So I think we're probably on like our 6th or 7th submittal on this project. Unfortunately, staff is, made ourselves available to help them walk through comments, talk to them about why they're required comments, how to revise them, and whatnot. I want to really give, a shout out to all the staff
with regard to this project, because everybody has made themselves available to this applicant whenever they've had questions. We've had sit downs, especially engineering, because I think it's the grading issues and the utility issues that have really been hard to get through the design process on this project. Next slide, please. Family Healthcare Network, this project's under construction, progressing. I think we're getting to the point where we're gonna have to start wondering when they're gonna shut down the existing building and transition their parking lot. So if I see it every day on my way home, I drive right past it. So they're working on flat work around the building, ADA stuff, parking behind the building. So it's only a matter of time where we've talked about transitioning and giving a temporary certificate of occupancy to the new building while they demo the old building and then do their parking lot, right? So it's progressing nicely. I think there was a lot of coordination needed during when Golden State came through town with the on-site contractors with regard to utilities and sidewalk, ramps, all the whole nine, right? So they had to install, I think, new lights out there. So coordinating all that with Fresno County and their contractors was a lot of fun for them, I'm sure, but they're getting there. Next slide, please. Selma Unified has a maintenance building proposed out at their yard near the FCRTA facility. We've worked with them. We've issued with a final decision letter. We're just awaiting building permit submittal for that project. Next slide, please. Selma Warehouse Lot 5. This is also in the industrial park directly across the street from the Selma Unified project. We issued a final decision letter. We're still awaiting building and grading permits for this project. It is one of the largest parcels out there, and my understanding is it's a large tenant that they're working with to make sure that the design build meets their specifications. Slide, please. These are idle projects that we have on file. Next slide. The Raj apartment project located on the southeast corner of, I believe that's Thompson and Nebraska. There's just been no movement on. So the idle projects, we have no movement, no updates, no anything. So we just want to make sure and go through those with everything. They've been approved. I think they have issues with some of the overhead utilities on Nebraska as well, similar to Casa de Villa. But it's a smaller site that they have, not an economy of scale to spread improvements, a larger project. So next slide, please. The gas station at 2nd and Young Street, southwest corner. This project was deemed incomplete. We sent it back to the applicant. This property was also a party to code enforcement action when the abatement of the sign poles on site. We haven't received an application or a response to our incomplete letter for this application. Next slide, please. McCall Estates, located south of town. This application is outside the sphere of influence, so it would require a sphere of influence amendment, as well as annexation, as well as CEQA and all these other technical documents and environmental documents. So that information has been provided to the applicant for this project, and there's been no project as well. Slide, please. Candlewood Suites, this is northwest corner of the Casitas project. This is the only part of this section that the Casitas project does not control, where they were proposing a Candlewood Suites. If you look on the site plan, part of the issue is they didn't account for a 40-foot right-of-way along the western portion of their project site. So in the northwest portion of town, the northwest specific plan calls for Fancher Street, which would be along the western edge of this project as a north-south road connector to Stillman Avenue. They did not even account for it on their site plan. So it kind of changes their whole layout as part of that and the ability to maybe meet the specifications of the Candlewood Suites or whoever the operator is, if they have any specific site specifications for their facility. So we've reached out to the applicant on multiple occasions. I think they're trying to set up a follow-up meeting. Is that Dale? We've heard back from them. We're trying to schedule a coordination meeting and see what else we can work out with them on that site. Next slide, please. Oh, that's it. And anything else you see in town, you can obviously ask us about it, or send us an email. But that is our development update.
Jerome, I have a quick question on, what's the status of the old Save Mart building? I heard other grocery stores were going in there, then I heard it was this one, then I heard it was that one. But I know there's permits for it. Is it an idle project or is it?
I mean, the permits have still been issued and I think we've had inspections within the last year, so they haven't expired. I've heard the same stories that you've heard, Commissioner Franco, that originally it was one tenant. That tenant fell through, so they had to scramble and find another tenant, similar tenant. And we understand that the second tenant hasn't dropped out yet, which would be State Foods. So that's currently who's slated to go in the old Save Mart building right now.
Okay.
Your presentation was much more thorough than what you did to the city council. The city I guess maybe just because there's more people and you're going faster.
Well, I think it was also like 11 o'clock at night when I did it last time.
Yeah, and I mean, but this,
Less
like I said, this is
interruptions.
just
Yeah.
really easygoing and we can ask you questions and there's no tension.
Yeah.
And I just really feel like you really brought us up to date. Thank you very much.
No problem. Questions?
Anything else for the commission that you need to share with us or tell us or?
Stay hydrated. It's really hot outside. Hopefully nobody got caught in the monsoon that was this afternoon. That was crazy. Lights were flickering in City Hall.
They were
It was-
flickering at my
We
house
thought we were
too.
gonna go home early. Yeah. So
Yeah, no,
that
in
was,
Shaver, actually, the power did go out
Oh, really?
throughout the whole area.
yeah.
The lightning started 4 fires, but then God, the rain put them out.
Oh.
And the local fire departments responded, but it was flooded. We thought it was winter for a sec.
Yeah, it was crazy. Apart from that, I think staff is still working on providing updated application materials from community development on various applications. We're working to streamline, I think, with some of the actions by city council. We have various business license types that we're breaking into, instead of one application, there'll be like 4 or 5 different applications more specific towards the type of application people have, whether it's a normal business license where you're in town, an out-of-town business license, a one-day business license, a minor home occupation business license, a major home occupation business license, sidewalk vendor business license. We're splitting those out so that they don't get confused, so that people know exactly what and how to apply for each one. We're doing same thing with ADU building permits. We're going to create an ADU building permit residential instead of it falling under our residential single family or addition. It would be his own, so that people can either choose the 4 ADU pre-approved plans that the city already has, or provide their own, but it's much more specific and streamlined than regular building permits.
Yeah.
We've also implemented e-plan check internally, so that we can have coordinated plan checks and red lines internally for all departments, so that when people get a set of red lines, they're not getting it from building and engineering and plan and a list of things from planning. We're trying to consolidate our development process to get one set of red lines and comments from everybody on one set of plans. So it's considerably easier for people to address. Then there's assurances that everybody's working with the same set of plans and not a different version. Because we've had instances where applicants maybe submit one version for their grading plan, but then submit a different set for their building plan. And what we're trying to do is eliminate those type of conflicts and versioning of people's plans to ensure that they get done in a timely manner. So.
Yeah, I have to say, I actually called the other day. My tenant needed our permission to do the work. And it was so easy once you walked me through to print that form, get it signed, submitted. I'm like, okay, it's done. So he doesn't say like that I am holding him basically from getting his plans. So that was the first time I had access to forms online and it was pretty cool. It was easy.
Like to hear.
Yeah. Awesome.
No further business. Anybody, commissioners have anything to share? No? Meeting is adjourned at 7:05 PM.
Thank you.